So my name's Matthew Utley. I'm a commissioning manager and I'm working across currently the Commissioning Alliance, and I'm also doing some consultancy work with Haringey.
Fantastic. And how long have you been aware of BERRI and what attracted you to BERRI?
So my initial involvement with BERRI was through a recommendation from Jonathan Stanley when I was a commissioner at Reading. I've been using BERRI probably for about 6 or 7 years now, on and off. And what attracted me to BERRI was the opportunity to look at unmet need, because my background in forensic psychiatry drove me to look at this within those services, but I would often be presented with issues with children and their behaviour, but no understanding as to what that behaviour is driven by. And the BERRI enabled me to capture that almost perfectly.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. So do you feel like it's got some advantages over other systems that claim to measure outcomes?
Definitely. I mean, I think, that the outcomes from many of the other systems that are in place, I could argue that a lot of them aren't really fit for purpose, and that they're too generalized, whereas BERRI is an individual screening system for an individual child, which identifies their individual needs, whereby you can then complete a set of outcomes based around those. So it's very, very user focused or child focused.
Yeah, one of the things we like about it is it seems to work at multiple levels. So you get the support at the child level and for the carers to know what to do, and also a data insight at the commissioning level or the service manager level.
It does,
So
and I found it to be really empowering, particularly with young people that we can get involved in kind of directing their own care pathway to some degree, so that they then change their role from passive recipient into active collaborator, or indeed a director of their own care pathway.
that's fantastic. So you've said that BERRI helped you to gain insight into children's needs. Did it help you to save costs?
Definitely. One of the key areas that it really did bring home to me was that the scores weren't always reflective of the level of cost of the placement that they were in. And I think with a project that Oxfordshire, Buckinghamshire, and a few of the Berkshires were involved in, it highlighted, that where children's needs had changed, why were they still in these high cost area services, when their needs didn't reflect that. But because it gives us an evidence base, and the opportunity to track a placement over a period of time, it also helps us to shape what those costs might look like, and plan for the future.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. So the other area that I know you've been using it in is thinking about step down placements. Can you
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about the pilot that you did in Bracknell Forest? Because that was the first place we used it together.
it was. And so we Bracknell Forest is a very small local authority, with around about 100 LAC children or thereabouts. And so we used BERRI initially to try and move forward the residential step down opportunity to enable children to step out of residential care into fostering. With this system attached to each child's application form, we met to discuss 5 potential children to step down. And from the information that BERRI gave us, we met with a number of providers within a multi-agency meeting to look directly at the children's needs and how these could be delivered through fostering. And we were offered 4 placements. We presented 5 cases and we were offered 4 placements into residential step down within that 2-hour meeting, which, you know, at the time we did it, was more placements than the whole of the rest of the contract collaboration or consortia. So, you know, that in itself kind of speaks volumes as well, you know, because we had an evidence-based system that really looked again at individual needs, but it gave us the opportunity to find solutions.
That sounds fantastic. So did those 4 young people move successfully, and did that have a cost implication for your service?
It did. I mean, the you know, 3 of them moved successfully. One of them, I think we transferred. We looked at a package to transfer them back home. But yeah, the cost savings were significant because, you know, bearing in mind, you know, the average residential cost is about £3,750 a week nationally now. We cut that cost in half by each placement and a bit more in some circumstances. And yeah, it was very well supported. We put the right services in, and obviously as the individual needs are met, that cost continues to go down.
I think we worked out that the projections of cost savings were somewhere near £500,000 a year, and were
Yeah,
likely to last for about 4 years. Is that correct?
yeah. I mean, one of the young people, the cost saving was you know, about 150,000 per annum, but he went into fostering at the age of 10 and will remain there until he's 18. So bearing on that, it's, you know, it's 8 years at that cost for just one person.
So I'm just checking my mental arithmetic, but if that saved £120,000 a year, that's nearly £1 million just on that young person's care journey.
It is, and that's just one child.
And do you think that the findings of there being young people who are suitable to move from residential to fostering, and that helping the lives of the young people and saving costs, is a finding that's replicable in other services, or was it just unique to that particular service?
No, I mean, I've done another bigger study actually, with another London borough that showed there are only 2 children out of their whole residential cohort that actually needed to be in residential care. The rest could have been placed into fostering with the right package around them, and you know, there's no reason that wouldn't have been hugely successful.
I know that on that second project, we identified 11 candidates who developing an individualized package of support could potentially have been beneficial for them and made cost savings. Did you work out any economic evaluation of what that was likely to achieve if successful?
Yeah, I did, and it was in the millions. you know, and again, but it's not, you know, it's not necessarily just about the cost saving. You know, there's a study that's just come out that's looked at residential care and you know the poor outcomes that are associated with it. That's, you know, not the case with every residential provider. Um, but it's, you know, it's very prominent that I think, you know, the outcomes within a family environment are generally much better, um, particularly in the long term, which is something we, you know, we really need to hit home hard. You know, if children are left in a, you know, a fairly, I suppose, institutionalized. I don't know if that's too strong, but you know, there's the option for children to become very institutionalized within, you know, a residential setting by default. And so, you know, when they get to a point that they move away from that, you know, it's very difficult for them to function outside of a, you know, a further institutionalized environment, which often leads to them entering into criminal justice, um, mental health services, and so on and so forth, prison.
Yeah, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because I think one of the big advantages of foster care is that you can use staying put to stay beyond 18 to
Yeah,
21. And actually, often there's informal support that extends beyond that. And I think the challenge of leaving care from residential care is that there aren't the same supports post 18 available. So I think, you know, that's definitely an issue. So I mean, overall, your experience of BERRI, you've been one of the people using it for the longest. Is it something you would recommend for local authorities to use?
I would. I think, you know, the value that I've seen and the value that it's brought to young people and service providers is massive. Um, and it's, you know, for me, it's, you know, it's an accredited tool that gives me evidence, and that evidence base is there and enables us to make much more informed decisions, both as providers and local authorities.
And that's really helpful to hear. And for providers, are you hearing back that they're seeing value in it? Because I guess when we're thinking about projects that make decisions about where young people go, that's a local authority side of things. But is it helpful on the ground in providing insight into children's needs or their progress?
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, it's all, you know, it's about us working much closer together to get the, you know, the desired outcome. And I can tell you a situation with a provider and a local authority where the provider's overview was very different to that of the local authority, and we ran a BERRI screen to look at whether this young person was ready to move into fostering, and it turned out that they weren't, and that the provider was actually very accurate in their overall analogy. And this young person's, you know, relationships scored off the scale. You know, it was a massive area of unmet need. But what it did, it showed us that you know, the young person wouldn't cope within a fostering environment, but it gave us the tools to support the provider to start delivering, in improving the opportunity for the young person to develop their you know, their deficits in forming relationships and their, you know, their poor attachment. So it you know, enabled the providers to be a lot more focused.
No, that's fantastic because I mean, I guess what we hope is that it'll help people on the ground to know where the needs are and where to direct their efforts, but also to inform decision making. And I think you're absolutely right that often the information suggests that you need to do more work of a particular type before a next step is possible. So as a commissioner and as someone kind of promoting BERRI in services, have you found it challenging to get social workers or placements to complete BERRI?
At times, yeah, but it's, I think again, it's about educating the social work teams and the commissioners into how to use it, because sometimes it's, any new system is regarded as it's, another form to fill in, which isn't necessarily the case with BERRI. It's a form that informs our decision making extremely effectively and gives us the opportunity to track our decisions and track placements and track aspects of behaviour in a way that I've not seen with any other system.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. So finally, why do you think local authorities should join the Innovate project that we've got launching at the moment?
I mean, I think nationally we don't really track or assess children's needs effectively. We tend to base decisions on risk, and the risk that a child's presenting at any one point will certainly contribute to the type of placement that we put them in. But risk is manageable if we know what that unmet need is and why, a particular element of behavior may be being presented. And so, if we can build a package of care to meet that direct need, we can improve many areas, outcomes, opportunity to remain in fostering or at home, the reduction of, those kind of high challenge firefighting opportunities that we're often faced with, because we're the risk is off the scale. And so I think the opportunity for local authorities to join the Innovate project is going to potentially show massive dividends.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. Thanks so much for talking to us today.
Yeah, and thank you. And I look forward to to our future working partnership and the opportunity to grow and develop the BERRI system.